Okay. Shavua Tov Lekulam. Baruch Hashem, we are returning back to learning Hilchot Tefillah. Today, we're going to be starting in the Tzurba, volume 11. We're going to be on page 116. Last week, we dealt primarily with the position, how to stand, feet together, shuckling versus not shuckling during Tefillah. And we're going back to that shir, and we're going to continue now. Really, when you're davening, right, we're going to be praying, we want to have our full concentration, if possible, on our prayers. Therefore, anything that could distract us from tefillah, from our prayers, should not be there. And that would lead to having something in your hands, right? Davening with something in your hands, we're going to see it might cause us to be worried that it might fall, it might break, might pay more attention to what's in your hand versus your tefillah. So this is where we're going to start with, and we're starting in Masech Sukkah. So it's Amar Mar Bar Meimar Rav Ashi. So Mar Bar Meimar said to Rav Ashi, Abba, his father, he would pray Tzalui Komitali Bey. He would pray, and the Gemara Masech Sukkah is kind of inferring that he would pray with the lulav etrog in his hand. Okay, so Mar Bar Meimar said to Rav Ashi that my father used to hold the lulav and etrog in his hand while praying the Shemona Esrei. We're here dealing with primarily Shemona Esrei. So, Meitva, they asked the question on this. It says, when person person cannot hold tefillin in his hand or a Torah scroll in his lap. He can't pray like that. Then also he can, if he's holding them, he can't go to the bathroom. He can't sleep with them. Not shinat kvav, lo shinat darai. And we already dealt with this sleeping and tefillin a couple of years back. The Amar Shmuel, and furthermore, Shmuel said, sakin, a knife, a ka'ara, and a plate, kikar, a loaf of bread, umaot, and money. All these are similar objects that a person cannot hold in his hand because it's going to distract him from the tefillah. So how did he go ahead and hold the lulav and etrog in his hand while praying Shemona Esrei? Wouldn't have taken it away from his Kavana as well. So the Gemara answers, it makes a difference. There in that case, hatam lav mitzvah ninhu v'tarid bahu, hacha mitzvah ninhu v'lo tarid bahu. So the Gemara answers that it really depends. When it came to holding the lulav and etrog, it was a mitzvah. It's part of the mitzvah. He was holding it, so it didn't bother him. So he was able to pray. But if you're holding something that's not part of the mitzvah of tefillah, it's not really part of anything that you're doing, so then you're just holding it stam, it's going to take away from your tefillah. So we're going to bring the way Rashi understands this. So Rashi says a person should hold it in his hand. Why? Because he's going to be busy. That it shouldn't fall from his hand and break. And he's not going to be able to have Yishuv Das while he's davening because he's worried. Imagine you have in your hand, you work jewelry, right? So you have a delicate piece of jewelry. It fall, might crack, the diamond might fall out. So if you're holding the jewelry in your hand and you're davening, you're worried about the jewelry not falling, so and not breaking. That would be the problem. When they said it's not related to the mitzvah, right? They're not related to the mitzvah. So Rashi understands that to hold it, it's going to be a burden because it's extra. It's not part of the davening. So it's difficult for him to hold it. Here in this case, by the lulav, by the lulav, he says the taking and holding of the lulav is a mitzvah. When we talk shechaviva mitzvah lulav, and because it's a mitzvah on him, it's not going to be considered a burden for him, and it's not going to distract him. The Rashi's differentiation between lulav and other things in your hand, the lulav is a mitzvah that you're happy and you want to do, and it's part of what you're doing. So you're not going to get confused while you're praying Shemona Esrei. Whereas holding something not related to davening, is you're worried that it might fall and break, and so you're going to be concentrating on that more than your davening. Okay. From the way Rashi is learning, the Beit Yosef says as follows. Pirish Rashi. Lav mitzvah loichasin, right? It's not a mitzvah to hold them. And it's going to be a burden to him. Therefore, he's busy, and it's difficult for him to hold them and protect them. Over here, though, by taking a lulav, it's a mitzvah. And we talk shechavi mitzvah lulav. Ein masav v'shmura kavod lulav v'lo torid. The vilafizeh shar dvarim. This is the main point of the Beit Yosef. Vilafizeh shar dvarim she'ein b'hem hefsed. Im yipalu miyado mutar leitpalo v'odam b'yado. So Beit Yosef wants to learn from Rashi. If you're holding something that will fall from your hand and it's not going to break, so you're not really worried if it falls from your hand, then you're allowed to hold it while you're davening. So, for example, let's take what's something that falls from your hand you're not really worried about. Let's say you have a ball. Or you have a cell phone in a protected case. And a stamp cell phone, the iPhone falls, it can crack, it can break. But you have a cell phone in a really protected OtterBox case, right? It's like been guaranteed that if you throw it down 3 floors, it still survive and nothing will happen to it. So you have something that you're not worried about. You have a ball in your hand. You have something that you're not worried about the ball. It comes from Rashi. Rashi's the whole issue is it might fall and break, and that's why you're worried and you're holding it. So if it's not going to break, there should be no real issue in holding something while you're davening, based on the way Rashi learned.
God told me that they hold the
salt
in their hand.
Right. So that you can say it's like lulav, part of the mitzvah. So it's not going to be dirty. Well, that's the whole reason why they're holding the salt. There's Kabbalistic reasons for it. But it's part. It's a way to do the mitzvah according to them. There's no mitzvah to hold lulav esrog during Shemona Esrei either. It's just people want to hold it, right? It's the same thing there. You don't have to hold the salt, but they're doing it as part of something. That's the way I would see it. If you want to say even more, you're not worried about salt falling. So you're not worried about salt falling. So you have that as well. However, not all the Rishonim learn this way. Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah, they explain. They say as follows: why does the Gemara also list knife, plate, loaf of bread, money? It doesn't mean only these. Lav davka. Elorcha demilsa naked. Who adin she'ein lo litel biyado shum dover b'shat hatfila. According to the Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah, when the Gemara just brought these cases, just bringing normal, regular cases, but it's not specific to those cases. And he says based on that, everything is a sort to hold in your hand while praying. Everything. So what happens by lulav? A lulav bilvad she'turu mishum chavuvei mitzvah, because it's a chavuvei mitzvah. Ve'lo yimat bazeh kavanat hatefila. It's not going to take away from the tefillah. He's using it as because he loves the mitzvah. It's not going to take away from his davening. Therefore, he can hold his lulav. Lefizeh, first tarachli is there. Shlo yikach adam shum davar b'yadav b'shash eat follow. So according to the Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah, anything, even a ball, even a cell phone that's in a protected case, that you're not worried about it, you can't hold it. Okay, what about a sitter? So can we say it's similar to the lulav? That it's going to help you in your davening? It's something that's going to help you davening.
According to him?
No. He said it's allowed to take. He said a lulav. He said it's allowed to. Why lulav?
Except for lulav.
A lulav bilvad she'tir mishum chavavei mitzvah lo yimat b'zeh kavanat tefillah. It doesn't take away from the kavanat tefillah. Everything else in your hand, even if it's not even though, Lamaisa, if you have a cell phone in a case and it falls, what are you going to do when the first thing when it falls? It's going to stare the davening. You have a ball, it's going to roll down, even though it's not going to break. Everything is going to take away from the kavanat tefillah. So he's basically, if you look at the words, lo yimat b'zeh kavanat tefillah, lulav is not going to take away from your kavanat tefillah. So siddur, you're going to hold in your hand. Adrabah, it doesn't take away because it helps your kavanah tefillah. So therefore, it wouldn't be a problem according to him. What does the Shulchan Aruch bring down? Shulchan Aruch, now we're on page 118, source 45. Kishum mitpalo. Oh, yachaz bi'od tefillin v'lo sefer michtevei kodesh v'lo ka'ara mala, and not a full bowl, full plate. V'lo sakin numois v'kikar, and not knife, not money, not bread. Nipnei shelibo alehem shelo yipalu v'yitrad v'yitvatel kavanato, because his heart is on them, he's paying attention to them, and he doesn't want them to fall. He doesn't really say because his fall it's not going to be break or anything like that. The Shulchan Aruch just says you're going to be paying attention to them, and we don't want you to do that. The lulav, but what? Little distraction, right? The lulav is manoi mutalach is biyado kivon shachiza biyado he mitzvah eno nitrad bishvilo. It's not going to bother him when he's taking a lulav because of the mitzvah that it is. That's what he said. Now the Mishnah Berurah wanted to explain this. First, the Mishnah Berurah says kishu mitpalel. He brings the pre-Megadim who says this includes Kriyat Shema and Psukei Zimra. We're up until now, we were always saying it just means Shemona Esrei. Mishnah Berurah brings from the pre-Megadim that says that includes Psukei Zimra and Kriyat Shema. And he says as follows here, but dafka hainish im yipolu yesh behem hefset or yaziku loy avol sharei dvarim mutalachos. The Mishnah Berurah says the reason why Shulchan Aruch brought these examples because they're going to fall, they're going to break, and you're going to have a problem. Other things that are not going to break, not going to be a problem. But yesh oimrim hani lav dafka. This is between the Rabbeinu Yonah, right? They said it's not lav dafka. Eloch the milchan dafka. But who hadin she'ein litol shum davar biyad b'shat tefillah v'chein heskim hataz. And so agrees the Taz. So it comes out, the Mishnah Berurah says you should do like the Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah, and the Taz also goes with that a person shouldn't hold anything in his hand, even if something that will fall and not break should not be held in his hands. Okay. Here he brings a Me'ikar Adin, the person should not hold anything in his hands, but the Avad, if he did, his tefillah would be okay. Here he brings down. Here, I'm going to read to you from the Yaakov. Shumit Palo, Kari Kriyat Shema, Lo Yachaz B'Yado Tefillah Mesifrei Kodesh. Mipnei Shalibo Aleim, Shalei Polo V'Yavo L'Dei B'Zayon. U'Mela Eino Yachol Mechaber. V'chein Lo Yachaz Davar Im Yipol Miyado Yishmar V'Tikalkel. Kigon Klei Ha'osi L'Hashever Im Yipol. O Kikar Lechem. V'Oisa Kain Ein Tefillah So Nishmat. The person who does do this holds something that might break. I'll call upon him the avad. Im over he'd follow kish tefillin biyado yotzi de chovis atfila. Vein tzarech lechazer ve'it follow. So the Yaakov seems to be saying that only something that might break, right? That's what he said. It's going to fall and get ruined or break, then not. So maybe you're not allowed to hold in your hand when that. We're going to get to that in a minute. Okay, so yeah, so it seems from the Yagos he says that the why so you're allowed to hold something, right? It's something that won't break. Yeah, but it's all good. No, he says right. So it seems since the Shulchan Aruch really didn't take a side on this, Mishnah Berurah brings down both opinions, and he says it's good to be machmer. So if a person, for whatever reason, held something that wouldn't have broken when it fell down, then his tefillah is a good tefillah. If he held something in his hand that could have broken and he held it, then his tefillah is not nishmat, not heard. However, he doesn't have to daven over again. Yeah, he didn't say because if it falls. He didn't say if it's nifsad it breaks or not. He didn't say that. He said that it won't fall. Anything you don't want to fall. He didn't say because it's going to get ruined. He's not saying what's it called that it's going to break. He says you don't want it to fall. Anything you hold, you don't want to fall. Okay. Right. He's not saying that the reason why you can't hold it is because it might break. He's just saying you can't hold it. He didn't give you a reason why he said you can't hold it. He's not saying like the Talmidei Rabbeinu Yonah that's saying it's going to bother your tefillah if you're holding anything. And he didn't say like Rashi that said if you have something that in your hand that might break, then it's a problem. He just said you can't hold it because it's going to stare your Kavana. You're saying he's holding like the Rabbeinu Yonah. It sounds like he's holding like the Rabbeinu Yonah. Anything or anything. Okay. So very good. So that's why you have the Yeshayim from the Mishnah Berurah, and you have the Taz that says like that.
It's not in my hand. It's on my head.
I pray sometimes my book baton, like
Right. Right. We're gonna see that. We're gonna see right now the Piskei Teshuvot. The Piskei Teshuvot says, he says as follows. Ein little beyond shum davar beitet fil. Vatam she'ein derech eretz la'amod mipnei anashim gedolim v'chavetzim biyadoi. Kol shechein lifnei melech v'chem lochem ha'kadosh baruch hu. So the Piskei Teshuvot comes from the other angle. He says, you're davening in front of Hashem. You're standing in front of a king. You don't come with all your baggage. You show your luggage here, you this here, that there, right? Kol shechein afilu hatloyim b'tzavaroi kitepo yesh lo l'salik mi'olav.
And if he puts it down, then he might lose his Kavana altogether.
Okay, so we're gonna see that. You're right. You have that side. You have that side also. You're right. But he's saying it's not coveted. You're going to the king and you're coming with all your stuff and you're davening. It's all right. So you take it off. First, take off his bag, his camera, his stack, anything he has to take it all up when he's praying Shmoneh Esrei. Covered.
He said before the other. He's bringing out even his bag, even if it's on
because he's coming from another angle. He's coming from the angle it's not covered.
So bad.
It's still not covered to come. Okay, you're having an audience with a very chashuv person. You're gonna come in with everything on you, holding on and saying I have to talk to you, and you're asking him from bakashas and stuff. You put it down. You come in like a mensch. So that's what he says here. Now he says, if you're worried it's going to get stolen, it's going to get broken, so now it's going to take away from your kavanah on the other side, right? You were trying to daven better kavanah, you're talking to Hashem, but now you put your bags down and you're worried someone's going to come and steal it, so now you're not going to have to be looking at it the whole time. The mutav, it's better if it's going to be adoi, or katafav, kavanah satiyem, yishavas yosim, asher shenichav, shenichnu me'alav, v'yitarid kol tefillah, ekri choshish kneva. So rather than him worried every second looking, someone's stealing my bag or somebody's stealing my bag, hold your bag on you so you're not worrying somebody that came in, someone would come and take it. It's the same thing if a person has a weapon and he needs to carry it as part of his job. He needs to have his weapon on all time. So, if you're like the policeman in Eretz Yisrael, then, these people just come, ram, stab, all these different things. You need to have your gun on you 24/7. So therefore, he needs to have it on him. He cannot put it down. He can daven with it on. Now, Piskei Teshuvos now continues. What about phones? Cell phones. Okay, we have cell phones today, and we have them in our pockets. Would that be permissible? Because it says when we can nilmad at kamu chomer lahachzik bevagdav telephone b'shaat hatfila ta'alul l'tzaltzel b'kol v'lahatrid gam et Hashem mitpalalim. He says, "Shagari tofim mikol shar halachot shekatuv b'gemara v'shulchan aruch al hizirut shelo le'afri l'kavanat mitpalalim v'gam oise b'chach s'choik b'hitol b'klushus beis medrash." So he's saying that your cell phone in your pocket can any minute ring, and when it rings, it can stare everybody's davening. So we're all worried about not in your hand because take away your kavanah. Having a cell phone on. Going to take away from Kavana for sure, not just yours, but others also. It's worse than everything else the Gemara says. Shulchan Aruch says. That's what he says. He says, "V'afilo also al matzav shel rotet. Rotet. This is vibrate, right? Shirak hu margish b'davar im all lekabel sicha toich kedei tefillah reize b'cha halacha halamedas halacha she'isur lahachzik etzel shum davar she'alul levatel kavanato." Now that it rings, vibrates, you start to think about who texted me. Did they answer my question? So it's going to be mevatel your kavanah. So even vibration, according to Piskei Teshuvos, is a problem.
Either I'm going to be all together.
Okay, so that's going to be. We're going to see.
Which means I'm not going to be in shul. I'm not going to be learning. I'm not going to be because I have to be there.
Okay.
But if not, I can use this.
We're gonna get to this. The Penina Halacha, Rabbi Melamed, he deals with that. And he's basically gonna say it's better to put it on vibrate if you have no choice. Yeah, that's what he's gonna say. We're gonna get there in a minute. Okay. And he says that this applies, the cell phone problem applies, having your cell phone in your pocket on, even on vibrate, is a problem even during Sukkot de Zimra, even during Shema, all of it. And he wrote down, he brings it, Shem Harav Galanti, Shedarish Roshemes Omrim Sheim. He would say that even though B'diavad, Shem Sheim Kam B'diavad HaMachzich Chafatzim Etzlo Odolim Lahatzit Kvarat Tefillah Ein Choyzeh Mitpal Mekom Okem Ein Tfilato Nishmat. Even though the Kabbalists say the person is Yotze if he holds something in his hand, right? We said already, if you hold it, even something that might fall and break, your davening is Yatza, but it's not Nishmat. So it's like you daven and it didn't go anywhere, right? It just stayed there. You're chiyuv with tefillah, but your davening is not taking any effect. So, so according to the Piskei Teshuvot, having a cell phone on in
and you had it in your hand, but you were part of the tzibur. Isn't it so that when you're part of the tzibur, it is taken together and it's part of the tzibur?
You have a brain over there.
You're with the
Business, chicken, how many?
Yes, even in Achinami, that's also you're part of the tzibur. Once you're part of the tzibur,
if you're part of the, okay, so let me ask you this: if you're all part of the tzibur, why you have to daven your own Shemona Esrei? I'm here.
You don't have to.
You don't have to. Okay, so then why we do?
You don't have to.
Why we do? So there's something in it. There's something better when you do also your own. Okay, so you get the schar of the tzibur, but that what you could have done with your own tefillah, you don't get. Yeah, it goes in quick and they don't check well. Yeah, okay. All right. And then they might do an IRS audit. Then what? Okay. Okay. So let me just see what I wrote here. I wrote we already did both of these. Okay, fine.
At the end of the day, all these halachot is common sense. You can. What should be done, we all know.
Right. So there's a video about it's going to be okay. But when we're talking here, we want to know chatchila. What should we do? The best thing to do apparently is to shut up your phone so much so that you don't even hear it, don't even feel it vibrate. We're gonna get to that. We can use the phone as a sitter. We're gonna see it.
I go with my apron to daven.
Right.
Okay.
You can take off your apron, it'll probably be better.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Is that okay if I go with my apron?
But yeah, you daven. You're talking to what you should do. You should probably take off the apron. You should take off the apron. If you have a jacket or something, you should put a jacket on. If you don't have a jacket, then you go without the apron. It should be you're going in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You know, you're right. If it's the last minute and it's so much shkia and you have no time to take it off, then you go and you're saying, "Oh God, I want to come daven to you. I didn't have time to take it off here." That looks good too. But if you're going in the middle of the day and you're able to take off for 1 minute, okay, you have to look. You have to shots up. Yeah. Yeah, I think like Mary Chai said, everyone knows what to do. You know what the best thing to do is, and but the avad is okay as well. Okay, when I was working in as a nurse with scrubs on, I would daven mincha with scrubs on. What am I gonna do? I didn't have a change of clothing. I didn't have a change of clothing. I didn't have a white shirt or anything on me. I went to daven with what I had. I'm in the middle of work. You daven when you're in the middle of work. You go, you go. Right? But you do what you have to do. Okay. Okay, now the Mishnah Berurah adds on. He brings from the Birkei Yosef, which is the Chidah, writes that it's similarly forbidden to seat a baby in front of him while he prays. Okay. You're definitely not allowed to hold a baby in your hand. That's holding. If it falls, right, it's going to fall. It's going to be a problem. But he says not only does it holding the baby, just putting the baby in front of you while you're davening is going to be a problem. Why? Because your attention is there. He's going to take away your attention from tefillah. You're worried about him falling off the chair. You're worried about him saying something. He's going to come and tell you, I need something. Right? Because you got to take him out. Okay, now. What was your question? Davening, we're talking about Shemona Esrei. We're talking about davening Shemona Esrei. The Mishnah Berurah said, though, it applies to Psuki de Zimra and Shema as well. Now, we said that you're allowed to hold a lulav. The Gemara said you're allowed to hold a lulav during Shemona Esrei. We're on 120 on the top. Source 50. Venira, it appears that he's holding the tefillah kedei lahitpalel be'iyun v'diyuk yafeh en misham kaved ala v'lo tarid. It's not considered a siddur. It's not considered something of a burden, and it doesn't distract them. So you have the Tzurba that says it's beferish. A siddur is held for the purpose of davening itself. It's not going to consider distraction. The Shulchan Aruch says, "Mutar lachos machzor tefilot beyado b'shasha mitpalel." Person's allowed to hold a machzor of prayers in his hands. Hoil v'tofas l'tzarich tefillah atzma. He's holding it exactly for the davening. Lo tarid. It's not going to bother him. Dumyan delulav. The mishum del kichato mitzvah lo tarid. Since you're taking it as a mitzvah, it's not a problem. The Ramah says, "Im lo yabiyad kodim sheitchil lo yachzar achara b'tefillah litalo. Elim keni b'mokum yuchad shehu muchan az mutar litalo afilu b'toich hatefillah kedei l'tfel mitucha." Says the Ramah says basically, get your siddur before davening. Don't middle davening start to go get it. Even though last week we said that if you lost the Kavana, you weren't able to say the word, you don't know where you're holding anymore, you can't continue. You're allowed to stop your shmona and say walk and get a siddur and come back. That is permissible, but he's saying don't do that unless you know dafka, you know exactly where the siddur is, and you went and you got it. Now the Yalkut Joseph brings in an idea here about what he calls yesh. It called nusach hatfila b'toich machshev kis cotton. So I'm assuming this is a small computer. This is like iPad, cell phone. This is our right. This is our technology. Mikradin. So the question is, can you hold it while davening? You're worried it might fall on my break or whatever it is. Can you hold it while davening? So right. So this would be that would be. I don't think he deals with that issue here with all those. That's why I think when he says machshav kiss, it's something. Right. Okay. All right. Mikra din mutli t'pal t'kushma eser mitoch this type of computer. Ve'in choishin shelo yochel lechavim beglal shechoishesh al machshav sheyipol miyado. Don't say the siddur is not so expensive. So if it falls, bad thing, but I'm not worried that it's going to break a siddur. But the computer, I'm holding an iPad, right? I'm holding a cell phone, not in a case, right? And I'm worried it's going to fall and break. So maybe I'm davening with it. I'm going to be worried about holding it. It's not a problem. But or yoker orach. Imagine someone had a siddur made out of very fancy leather, right? Very sensitive leather. If it fall, it would get an indent or something like that. You're not down from such a siddur. The kibbutz I think would feel him in toich chefetz zeh. It's not going to take away from your kavanah. So if it has something to do with your davening, it seems to be permissible to have because it's part of davening. It's not going to take away from your kavanah. Now, in the Penini Halacha of Eliezer Milamed, he says as follows: a person has to shut off his cell phone of his hand. The basic knesset a person should not use cell phone as a siddur when he has siddurim. And because you don't want to look as if you're looking at the news or whatever else during davening, playing Candy Crush. Although I've actually seen people play Candy Crush during davening recently. It was last week, not in the shul. Don't worry, it was a different shul. Guy sitting in the back of the shul. I don't know if I would be playing Candy Crush in shul. At least I would sit in such a way that no one else would see it. And this guy was sitting there and was just open to everybody to see. They don't think it's something bad.
No, it's a mile to play Candy Crush and not do other things. He's doing that and not other things.
Okay, I guess.
Should be kosher.
Okay.
So he's showing you he's playing
He's
that
playing.
and not other things.
All right.
That's
Fine. I hear. Misha like siddur who needs to l'expal mitoich machsher yivatel tchila et haefsharot lekabel sichot v'hodaot. He has to shut off the option to receive messages and notifications. Right. So airplane mode, like Yosef said over here. Person will have to shut it off, put it on that, because otherwise it's going to be mibatil his kavana. You're not gonna have kavana. You're gonna be busy looking at stuff. Person, however, person has a pressing need.
Pressing need to call somebody to come to the shoe. Okay.
Sure. Someone has a pressing need. ישאר את המכשיר זמין, אבל יעביר אותו למצב של רוטט, כדי שצלצול שלו להפריע לתפילה. So let's say someone's dealing with, for example, I would say someone has a sick relative in the hospital. He went to daven, but they might call him any minute. The doctor has a question. They have something to decide on. So he needs to be available to answer. So in such a case, he should leave his cell phone on vibrate. Not shut it off completely. He's saying if you need to be contacted, emergencies, right? Emergencies, you would keep it on.
What case we're talking about here?
For what part?
For the phone, leaving the phone on for Shabbat.
Leaving the phone on.
Yeah.
Talk about a weekday. Talk about a weekday.
Okay.
Weekday during davening. Yeah. Okay. Fine. Now. So now we're coming. What about women holding young children during Shemona Esrei? So the halacha, there should really be no difference between men and women in davening Shemona Esrei. If you're going to hold something that's going to fall and break, or something that's going to take away your kavana, you shouldn't be holding it. So, but let's see what they're bringing down. You have to think about it the other way. Also, remember in Piskei Teshuvot, he said if you're going to put down your bags, that's going to cause you to be worried about it and take away your kavana because you put down your bags and your problem. So they're going to bring down here the same issue with the children by the woman. If she's not going to pick them up, they're going to make more noise and more problems. So she's not going to have kavana at all. If she picks them up, she might actually have more of a chance to have some kavana. So let's see who brings that here. A woman may not pray while holding a baby in her arms because her child requires constant attention to make sure he does not fall. Furthermore, the baby is likely to disturb her kavana. Even when the baby is wrapped inside an infant carrier sling, it is not respected to pray with him or on her. Still, if no other option exists, and the woman praying knows that she'll be able to have kavana in her prayer while holding the baby, may pray with him on her. When there is a concern that she will not be able to have kavana, she may not pray in that manner. Instead, she fulfills her obligation of tefillah, like we said, according to the Rambam, just a little bit of davening, so Birkat Torah, Birkat Shachar, which you're definitely allowed to say when holding a baby. So a woman, it says over here, because if she doesn't pick up the child, it's going to cause more problems. So if you're going to pick her up and you know it's going to be quiet and you can have kavana, the woman can daven like that. But if you can pick him up and still not going to be able to have kavana, then you should not pray Shemona Esrei that way. Rather, she should just be yotzei her tefillah through the Birkat Shachar, Birkat Torah. Here he brings the Rigshay Lev, Rabbi Menachem Nissel, who says you need 3 conditions if you want to hold a child while davening. The child is crying or disturbing her concentration right now in some other way. Holding the child is the only way she'll be able to have proper kavanah right now. And there is no other time other than this time that she's going to be able to daven. Meaning, if she'll be able to wait 20 minutes and the child will fall asleep and you'll still be Zman Tefillah, then she should wait for that. But if it's not going to have that option anyway, then she could be able to do this.
Baby, while she's holding, the baby went number 2. Oh.
This is a big problem.
No, she can't let it go. It can't smell.
That would be a problem, right?
She takes a break.
Yeah, we'd have to stop davening. Yeah, you would have to stop davening. Yep. This goes back to
Well, for sure to stop.
right. Smell we said that from sure. If it's not seen, right, it's covered up.
Smell.
Can't really. This is problematic. It is problematic. I don't know the answer. All right.
Where's the baby?
And she's holding him. The baby was crying. It's coming Zman Tefillah. She picked up the baby to daven, and now they're number 2. She shouldn't daven. Such a mother seems to be pretty busy. She should be yotzei tefillah with Birkat Shachar and Birkat Torah. with anything else you should say. Then she should take care of the children. This is a famous Rabbi Eli Lopian that he would tell the young mothers that would not be able to go to shul on Yom Kippur, right? They felt bad. They want to go to shul on Yom Kippur when they have the children. And he would say that you're taking care of the children at home. That already is your avodah of Yom Kippur, so the husband can go and stuff like that. So you have to remember, when we say a woman has to daven, a woman has to daven. But the woman has her avodah, and it's not the same with the man's service. The man has a chiyuv of learning, chiyuv of davening. A woman doesn't have these chiyuvim as the man has. Her business is in the house, right? Sinji chone zan, right? The whole house is on the woman. The woman, that's her business. Now, if she can also do everything else and be a superwoman, like all these famous Rebbitzins that took care of everybody and daven 3 times a and 3 times a day, then they should do that. But if it's too hard for them, then they should focus on the house and be upset with the what like the Rambam, a little davening, the Shachar, the Torah, or anything they can say by themselves. Okay, they now that we talked about children and all this, the Mishnah Berurah brings down that the law was very critical of those who bring children to the shul, and this means children who are not yet they're playing and dancing. I don't know, I haven't seen the dancing in the shul, but I definitely see them playing. The kids come, they sing, they dance, they play around in the shul, and they bother other people. Big oi. Gam ki ezikinu lo yusuru minhagam hara asher nchanchanumi yaldatam lahishtega'al belavazot kuchat b'knesset. This is the scariest part. Children who come too young to shul and they make it a playground. As they get older, the shul remains a playground to them. That's what the shlosh says. Because I grew up this being my playground. So now that I'm 13, 14, 15, 16, it remains my playground. Then when they get older, they make the Kiddush club, during the Kriyat Torah, they're playing around other games. I don't know if you ever seen, I've seen shuls where someone comes around and plays with people's ears and they go like this, they touch them, stuff. I'm sure if you played it more than one shul in your life, you've seen people playing in shuls. They throw when it comes candy time, they're throwing it on each other. I'm talking about adults. But why is it like that? Because when they were younger, that's what they used to do. Bozi in the shul, they played around. So that's what they continue doing. That's why you cannot take children so young to shul. You can't take children so young to shul if they're not in the age of chinuch. Okay? It says, once they become the age of chinuch, chinuch means that they're able to sit and by their father and learn and see what to do. You teach them how to sit. And they teach them not to move from their place. Right? There's some people who can't sit. They don't have sitzfleisch. They're running around. You teach them how to answer Kaddish and Kedusha. And he says over here, the Ayin B'Tana D'Eliyahu, Gadol ha'onish sheyesh l'ha'av shemeniach et beno la'anot devarim shel hevel b'tfilot b'beit ha'knesset. That the father will get a very big punishment if he lets his child play around in the shul and make problems in the shul and not answer correctly to the davening. So this is not a simple thing. I tell you from my own experience, my father didn't take me to shul on a constant basis until I was maybe 11, 12. He never took us. He didn't want to take us. He said, his kids are just going to play there. He was pretty much right. We would probably call. Whenever we did come to shul, we were fighting with somebody. There were some other kids in the shul. We always ended up fighting with somebody, me and my brother. So there's a reason for that, and tell you, just I saw in the Lena Shaber, Chavzubashim brings down, when you want to bring kids to shul who are not yet the age of chinuch, he says you bring them towards the end of shul. So if Shabbos davening ends around 10:45, so you bring them around 10:15. The last half hour they can sit, hopefully. They can sit, so you can show them and stuff like that, so it's not hard for them. You bring them from 8 o'clock in the morning to 10:45, it might be too difficult. And every child, according to his ability, parent has to know what they can do and what they can't do. Here in the Tefillah Kilchata, he brings on Nohagim lahavit tinakot lebeit haknesset. The Shach said for Torah, the kids say for Torah, Chanchem l'zarzim mitzvos, v'yamadim ha'av l'yidoy v'yishkiach aleim, l'tanheg b'eim avir beit haknesset. Ketanim b'yoyter, young children, haratzim, usachakim b'beit knesset, mutar shelo lahavim. Ifnei sharegel naset teva v'chein, because it comes teva v'chein, ifnei shehem metridim et hatzibur b'tfilatam. So there's two problems with bringing very small children to shul. A, it bothers the people who are there currently. B, so that's what they're going to do when they grow up. They're going to stay outside the shul, play outside.
Fun.
No, it's not fine.
They're not inside. The idea is that
So even the 11, listen,
I hear what you're saying. I hear you. You might be right. I'm going to disagree because my understanding is that they becomes to them a teva, a nature. The nature is I go to shul and I don't go inside the shul. I stay outside the shul and I talk and I play and I do things like that. I've seen adults do this. They come to shul, they sit down, they get a talit, they get there, they get a coffee, and they go out and they drink and they talk. I've seen it. It's because that's the way you grow up. You don't come to shul to stay outside and play and talk. You come to shul to daven inside. It's the same thing. It's the same idea. I see it that way at least. I mean, I can hear you're saying like by you're telling the kedushas of the shul is the shul. So in the shul you can't do it. So go outside and do it. I hear it. But I
think maybe the other kids outside, they're coming here, so the adults are doing their thing out inside. The kids are doing their thing outside. And when they grow older, they will come inside as well.
They don't listen.
okay. If you see it, if you see it and that works, call it covered. If you think I don't know. I personally, I hear it. Maybe in a small extent it could be, but overall, if they're gonna play outside most of the time, I feel that's what they're gonna grow up thinking, that they come to shul, they can stay outside. They don't have to go inside. They can come in for a minute, come out and stuff like that. It becomes a derech like that. Yeah, it's best to
Kids that from your surrounding people, the kids that hang around in shul. Not talking about davening time, after davening, before davening, just hang around in shul. The way I saw it, my friends are around me. Those kids, they stayed pretty solid. The ones that hanged around, if they made a mess, and even if they made a balagan, and if they made whatever they did,
100%.
those kids are solid.
No, we're not talking about them, 100%. Because
Put it out there.
no, 100%. You're right. Because hanging around shul is better than hanging around anywhere else. And it's very good to be part of a shul. I'll tell you, as my experience of dealing with different shuls and different kids and stuff like that. If a kid would come and make noise in the shul, we never ever would tell them something, mean or kick them out anytime, anything like this. Because Chas v'shalom with the kid, it's like my side. I hear it says not to bring children, but let's say a child does come. The father does bring the child, and the child is staring the davening. He's really bothering the davening. If you're gonna come and tell the child or the father something, and the child sees it, that's the bad taste he's gonna have for shul for the rest of his life. Then in shul, they don't let you be you. They tell you, and that's not going to be.
Father.
You have to tell the father when the child's not around. You can tell him in a nice way if he's gonna listen to you. If he's gonna listen to you, you have to find someone who's gonna listen to and tell it to. You have to be very careful when it comes to sensitivities of people, and especially of children, because children are gonna form a lifelong thought about shul that the guy was mean and stuff like that. Listen, I remember I got screamed at and yelled at by old people in the shul. And I think we all did at some point, right? Right. Well, so we just, I mean, we get different generation. And today kids are very different than when we were. I mean, I got screamed, yelled at. I just ignored it and said, well, the guy's probably an old, crazy guy. Leave him alone. Today kids feel very sensitive. So say whatever.
Very sensitive, like you said.
Right. Very sensitive. You tell them one wrong thing, it can leave a lifelong effect on them. You have to be very careful of these things. Yeah. Yep. Okay, fine. Let's move on to our next portion. Let's see if we can get through this next part. We're going to turn to page 143. We're skipping a little bit. If we did the Makshava and stuff last time on this part. Now we're starting Shir 4. Let's take a look here. Okay. When we learned about Kriyat Shema, we said there were two kavanot for Kriyat Shema. There was the kavanah of doing the mitzvah, kavanah to mitzvah, and there was a kavanah of the words or what the words meant. Does the same, or what is the kavanah of Shmona Esrei? A person comes to Shmona Esrei, what's the kavanah of tefillah at that time? Tan Rabbanan, Hamitpalel tzarich sheyichaven et libo u'tamayim. A person has to concentrate his heart to Shemayim while davening. V'shol omer simul davar tachin libam takshiv oznecha. direct their hearts, your ear will listen. If you direct your hearts to Hashem, and will listen, and your prayers will be accepted. The Torah brings down 2 kavanot that are required for tefillah. The 2 kavanot you have to have for tefillah. Machshavato ketzad. What is the machshava for Shemona Esrei? The tiny mitpal tzarich shichav liboy shneimar tachin libam. Perish shichav and perish and milois. You should have the concentration of the word shemoitzi b'spatav v'yachshav ki'ilu shechin. And that's one. So first thing is perish and milot. V'yachshav ki'ilu shechina kenegdo. And a person has to have kavana as if the Shechina is right in front of him, that Hashem is right in front of him. Shenemar shvita Hashem v'negdei tamid. And this is the 2 kavanas that a person has to have. V'ya'ir hakavana v'yastir kol machshavot hatorodot oto ad shetishe'er machshavato v'kavanato zacha b'tfilato. A person has to remove all disturbing thoughts until his thought is purely on his prayer. So when it comes to davening, the Torah says you have to remove everything else from your head. He has to think as if he's actually speaking to an actual human who's a king. That today he's here and tomorrow he's in the kever. What would you do if you're going to go have an audience with an actual king? You're going to prepare your words. As much as you could, you're going to say them nicely and prepare them. Now only when you come to Avos Radam, he only hears what you say, right? But when you come to Hashem, not only does he hear what you say, he hears your inner thoughts. So you have to prepare your inner thoughts as well. כי לפניו המחשבה כדיבור, כי כל המחשבות הוא חוקר. וכן היו עושים חסידים ואנשי מייסר, שהיו מתמודדים ומכוונים בתפילתן, עד שיהיו מגיעים להתפשטות הגשמיות, ולהתגברות רוח הסחילות, עד שיהיו מגיעים קרוב למעלת הנבואה. That the אנשי חסידים, אנשי ראשונים, אנשי מייסר, would get rid of everything and come so close to Hashem as if they almost got nevuah. That's how much you have to be careful when you pray. And here he brings a Shulchan Aruch that says, "Hamitpal tzar shechavim b'liboy perish milot shemotzi b'svatav v'yichshov ki'ilu shchina kenigdo." So you bring down these 2 requirements when praying Shemona Esrei. The 2 requirements of Kavana is knowing what you're saying and imagining that you're in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He brings down the rest of the tour here as well.
What page are you on?
We're on page 144.
Oh, you skipped a little bit?
Yeah, because we did the Machshava from the other shir last week. And then we just skipped everything else to the start of the next year. So in the Shulchan Aruch says, "V'tzarich sheyechshav b'dvarim hamachni'im halev u'mechavanim oto la'aviv shebashamayim v'lo yechshav b'dvarim sheyesh behem kalot rosh." Person has to think about things that will bring him to that point. And the Ramah says a person should do this before davening. Think about his loneliness and remove all human pleasure from his heart. And then the Ramah adds on, to kiss his kids, that there should be no other love than the love for Hashem in the shul. A lot of people don't know this. The kids come in, the grandkids come in, and they're kissing them.
Try to kiss the keeper. Keeper is
You saw that somewhere?
no, the kids you cannot kiss. That I can understand because you're direct. The keeper is what represents HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That brings the Yirat Shamayim.
This is pshat.
Right? I hear.
And what's the difference? You're kissing the parochet over the part of the on Kodesh.
Okay.
Kissing a sefer. Right? This is the chepta.
What is
That's
it?
the kucha.
But what does a child think when you're kissing him on the Yamukta?
What does he think?
Yeah.
It's not what he thinks, it's what I think.
What does he
get out
think?
of it?
What does he think? He thinks you're kissing him, right?
Yeah, but again, what does he get out of it? I don't.
What does it look like?
That's what I get out
What
of it.
What
is-
do you feel?
What do I see? What do I see when
what
you do it?
feel? You feel like you're kissing him.
What do I see when you do it? And see, he's kissing him. Am I gonna pay attention to his keeper or not? I don't know. I hear what you're coming from. I don't know. I don't know. If you saw it somewhere, you probably did see it somewhere. I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, that's what he says. That you shouldn't kiss children in the shul. Very important halakha because a lot of people don't know this. Here he brings down, what does it mean, Perish Milot? According to the Mishnah Brura, no, you shouldn't hug them in the shul. Shul should be a shul. You don't do these things in the shul. The shul is not hugging, kissing type of place. This is a hugging, kiss HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is outside. This is what you do outside. After davening, hug everybody in the house, everything like that. Okay. Unless he really needs it as a pick-me-up. Hugging kiss after Aliyah.
They kiss each other, man. It's like an Arabian.
I don't know. He says it's also to kiss children in the shul. Leave it at that. I don't know anything else after that.
Kiss over there.
I don't see. I don't know. I tell you, I came to show my father never gave me a hug. Okay, that's it. Leave it at that. That's my minhag that I have. All right. Perish Milot. According to the Mishnah Brura, Perish Milot does not mean the kavanot of Yud Kei Vav Kei Aleph Dal Nun Yud. Not that. Perish Milot is rakit pelal kipshuto lahavin hadvarim b'kavanat halev. Person should know the words that he's saying. Simple words. Nothing past that. That's what the Mishnah Brura says. Mishnah says, Perish Milot, translation of the words, that's the kavanah a person should have. It's just understanding the basic words. Okay? Then he says, what about the kavanah of standing in front of Hashem? He brings from the Pnei Yeshua that this kavanah, not during tefillah, but only before. And during tefillah, tzarich l'chaven b'perish milot only. So the Mishnah Brura brings down. So we're going to see that not everyone agrees to that. But the way the Mishnah Brura is bringing down is that before you get into Shemona Esrei, you put yourself in the focus that you're in front of Hashem. And then during Shemona Esrei itself, you're just on Perish Milot. Just pay attention to the Perish Milot.
You're ready for that.
Right. So you're already in there. On every page, right? On the top. Only if everybody looked at that. It's so small on the top most times, it's skipped over. Okay, Ketzah Yal Kavana, the Rambam says, what's the Kavana? Sheipanet libo mikol machshavot ve'ira atzmo ki'ilu hu omer lifnei hashchina. Lefikach, tzarech leyeshev me'at koydem hatfila kedei lechaven et libo ve'achar kach yitpalel b'nachar tachanunim. The Rambam says you have to sit a little bit before davening, get into the mode of davening, and then daven. Person, same too, when you shouldn't be a burden davening, so you shouldn't just finish davening and run out. You have to sit for a little bit after davening. I remember when I was davening, when we were growing up, we in the shul, they would say Yigdal Friday night. Yigdal, everyone would sit down for Yigdal. They would sit down for Yigdal. Everyone would sit down a little more after Yigdal and then get up and leave. Nowadays, almost all the shuls are the same now. Nowadays, during Yigdal, half the shul already disappears. While they're walking home, there's already, once I was thinking about why there's so many, although there are those who say not to say Yigdal on Friday night, but most Friday do say Yigdal Friday night. And I was thinking, why do we sing Yigdal Friday night? If you ever think about it. I thought about it. I came up with a shot. I don't know if it's true or not. But the shot that I had was that what's Yigdal? Yigdal is 13 main principles of being a Jew. Without those 13 principles, you don't have Yahadut. You don't have anything. So during the whole week, we believe the 13 principles, but we just don't have time to review it, look it over, or something like that. Friday night, finally, now you have a little time. It's Shabbat, right? Now you have time there's nowhere to run. So after davening, we sit down and we do the Shlosh Sikurim. We go over the 13 main principles. Baruch Hashem, that shul where I said that idea, that minyan, Baruch Hashem, they've been doing every Friday night. They actually sit down and say Yigdal now. So I came, after a few years, I wasn't there. I came back there where I gave this drasha. And they came to Yigdal, and I was walking out because I'm so used to davening everywhere else. Everyone walks out during Yigdal. And then the guy came over to me, he said, but you gave the drasha here. You said Yigdal, you have to sit down Friday night because you have time to think about the 13 principles of faith. I said, you're right, and I came, I sat back down. It was a true story. True story. Anyway. Huh? Yeah, they're fine. That's what the Rambam says. The Rambam says the person has to sit a little bit before he davens. Okay, on top of page 146, question here: does the lack of either type of kavana prevent one from fulfilling the obligation of tefillah? What is the status of one who did not have the required kavana? Either we're not thinking the words, or we're not thinking that Shekhinah was in front of him. We're going to examine two Rambams and try to get from the Rambam what would be the halacha. Right? Halacha, we today though, we hold like almost everyone holds like the Ramah, which is you're really supposed to have kavanah minimum on Perish Hamilot on the first bracha. First bracha. And if a person didn't on the first bracha do the kavanah, he's supposed to repeat Shemona Esrei. But the Ramah says we do not repeat Shemona Esrei today because you give him to do it over, he's going to do it over again without kavanah. So better not to do kavanah unless he really knows he's going to have a kavanah. If he's going to do it over again, he should not be doing it over again. The first bracha avot. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a look. Let's take a look.
Until first 3, I think.
Okay.
First we read, but you list.
Right. That's the minimum. The first 3 is considered one section, so you want to get that. But even that, you just do the first one. Now, how is kavanah? Kavanat halev ketzat. This is the Rambam said. Kol tefillah she'ena b'chvana ena tefillah. V'mitpalel b'lo kavanah chozer u'mitpalel b'kavanah. The Rambam says you need tefillah for the whole davening. Kol tefillah, any part of the prayer she'ena b'kavanah ena tefillah. It's not considered a prayer. Then he says, again, it says the Fika Tzarech Leishav Me'at Kved Tefillah. The Rambam pretty much said the whole davening needs it. So he said, Kol HaTefillah, Kol Tefillah, Sheina B'Kavana. He brings it further. He says, Fika Haba Min HaDerech V'hu Ayef O Mitzer Asur Lo Yitpalel Ad Sheteshev Dato. Person who just came back from a trip or something like that, and he shouldn't daven until he has Yishuv Dat in order to have Kavana. Okay, we're gonna see. I don't think today we don't pretty much do that because of our lack of Kavana.
My rabbi said, one guy came to a Jew said, how come you people so successful, so wise, rich, successful? The rabbi said, where else you gonna see a person coming in 3 times a day and doing yoga, meditate, and think about business?
Now, and then the Rambam says, now another Rambam. So this was Hilchos Tefillah, Perik Dalin, 4:1. Now Hilchos Tefillah Yud. He says, Mish hitpalel v'lo kivenet libo, yichzor v'yitpalel b'kavanah, v'im kiven libo b'bracha rishonah. But if he had kavanah on the first bracha, which is the bracha of avot, shuv eno tzarich. He does not have to go back. So we have a stira in the 2 Rambams. We have Rambam that says, right.
We didn't do. You gotta go back.
Right, for just the first bracha.
Yeah.
But the other Rambam that we brought down first in Perik Dalet said, "Kol tefillah she'eina b'kavana." Any part of the tefillah doesn't have kavana is not considered a davening. Whole Shemona Esrei has to have kavana. Whereas in the second Rambam, just avot, if you didn't have, then you have to go back.
What if even our didn't have it?
You would technically have to go back. We don't do that today because if you give you to do it again, you're not going to do it. So why give you to do it again? Today we're very bad, unfortunately. So we have a steer in the Rambam. And one Rambam says you have the whole davening needs kavanah. If you didn't have kavanah in any part of if even one part of the davening, you didn't daven, you have to go back and daven again. The other Rambam says just the first one. One way to answer it is that this Rambam that says kol tefillah tzarich kavana is that it should have said but if he had kavana on the first one, he didn't have to go back. So they're not really arguing. It just didn't say that part over there. But if you had Kavana, you wouldn't have to go back. But Rav Soloveitchik wants to separate the two Kavanot. He wants to say that the Rambam is looking at the two Kavanot. When it comes to Perush Hamilim, to the translation of the words, that he agrees only of what you need. But the Kavanah of Hashem is in front of you, that you need the whole time. That's what Soloveitchik wants to say. One is the Kavanah for the meaning of the words. The second is the Kavanah that he's in front of Hashem. And he says as follows: "V'ner the Kavana zu eino midin Kavana rak shehu me'etzem ma'aseh tefillah." This is the actual whole point of tefillah. That's what Rav Chaim Soloveitchik wants to say. He says the whole davening is that I'm standing in front of Hashem. He didn't daven. If you just said the words and you didn't think that you were standing in front of Hashem, you didn't daven. The whole point of davening is that you're standing in front of Hashem. He didn't do it. And therefore, that Rambam that said you need to have kavanah for all the tefillah, that was on the kavanah that I'm standing in front of Hashem. That's the way Rav Chaim Soloveitchik wants to learn this theory in the Rambam. That it makes a difference of which kavanah we're talking about. The Rambam said it. You didn't have the kavanah that you're standing in front of Hashem for the whole tefillah, then you weren't Yotze tefillah. Now, not like we were learning in the Mishnah Berurah that we said there's the whole idea of standing in front of Hashem during davening is before tefillah, and then during the Shemona Esrei you're just having Perush Hamilim. And according to the way Rav Chaim Soloveitchik is learning these two Rambams, he's saying opposite. Really, he's saying the whole Shemona Esrei you have to have kavanah that you're standing in front of Hashem. You just need Perush Hamilim for the first bracha. That's the way they seem to have this understanding from Chaim Soloveitchik, and we're going to see here from the Chazon Ish, Kol Adam Ha'omed Leit Palel. Any person who's standing in prayer and praying, lo shaykh bo mit'asek lo adam yesh bo yediah kahasher tefillah lefanav yitbarach ela she'en libo ar kol kach u'v'di'ah k'usha sagi b'di'avad ela she'en tzuyam v'kubel kol kach. So the Chazon Ish is saying any person who's standing and praying does not enter the category of doing something that he's unaware of, as he always has a minimal awareness that he is praying. Just that his heart is not always fully understanding this. So what the Chazon Ish is pretty much saying, Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, you said you have to have kavanah based on the round, you have to have kavanah that you're standing in front of Hashem all the time. He says if a person is davening, what do you think he's doing? Even though he may not be paying attention that he's standing in front of Hashem, the whole point of davening is that you're standing in front of Hashem. So Chazon Ish is saying, by standing up and davening, that is standing, and it's not completely doing that the best way you would want to, but by doing that, you're showing that that's what it is. It's not the best way, but b'di'avad, you don't have to. It's not like you have to go back and daven again if you didn't have kavanah that you were standing in front of Hashem. I wrote here. Look at the Yalkut Yosef Shin Samach Hey, page Shin Samach Hey. So what did I see? Let's see. So he brings as follows over here. So before a person starts to daven, he needs to have the kavanah that he's standing in front of Hashem. He should pay attention to the words that he's saying from his mouth. That if he didn't have this kavanah that he's in front of the Shekhinah for all the brachot of tefillah, kol bracha shelo nitkaven b'kavanazo nichshav ki'ilu dilaga bracha hahi. It's as if he skipped that beracha. That's the way Rav Chaim Soloveitchik was learning. That if you don't have that kavanah that you're standing in front of Hashem during that bracha, it's as if you skipped that bracha. all the brachos. He's learning the Zerchaim Salamatrix understanding in the Rambam. That you have to have the Kavana of standing in front of Hashem for the whole Shmoneh Esrei. If you didn't do that, you skip. He said, "Call tefillah she'ema Kavana ain't a tefillah." The Rambam said, and that's the way Chaim Soloveitchik was learning it. Below yotza yidei chavis tefillah. Ulam ha'ikar lahalacha shebdi avad ein kavana zo me'akevet. However, Mikra Hadin, this kavana that you have to have standing in front of Hashem for every bracha is not going to stop your davening. V'chein av hasharidim asher Hashem koreh shemechavanim per shemil shebtefillah ein nizharim l'chshov kavana zo b'chol brachot shebtefillah. Even those people who are very careful to daven with per shemilim, they're not careful to have this machshava that they're standing in front of Hashem for every bracha. And once you have this kavana at the first bracha that you're standing in front of Hashem, this kavana continues for the rest of the davening. Okay, so what did we come out with? You definitely have to have the kavana that you're standing in front of Hashem before you start your Shmoneh Esrei, before you start tefillah. If possible, to have that kavana throughout the whole Shmoneh Esrei that you're standing in front of Hashem, like the old Siddur say, Shvish Hashem and the tummy on the top, even better. But that's not going to be ma'akev to the tefillah. And Perish Milim, we said you should really have for the whole davening, but you must have it for the first bracha. And if you didn't do it for the first bracha, then you're not going to go back anyway, because if you went back, you probably wouldn't do it again. Fine. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, ha'oseh tfilato keva en tfilato tahanunim. One whose prayer is fixed, his davening, his prayer is not good. It's flawed. What does it mean, kiva? What does it mean, my kiva? Rabbi Yaakov Bar Idi Amar Rabbi Yoshia, kol tfilato dumi alav kemasoy. That it's as if it's your job, right? I just got to say these words. This is no good. Rabbanan Amram, kol mi she'eino omer b'lashon tahanunim. Anyone who's not davening with, he's not requesting anything. He's just davening it again in route. He's not meaning it. No emotion to it. Rabbi Yosef the Amr Tarvayu kol she'eni yochol lechadash bo dover. Someone who didn't add anything new to it. You have emotions to it. Yeah, you have to daven with the real. You know, someone once was a mother who saw her child become not from family, and the child became more from, and they were eating with us for a Shabbat, and she asked us, why does my son, when he's davening, it looks like he's fighting with God? You know, he's like struggling and his hands going like that. Why is he fighting with God during davening? It's emotion. The person is davening with emotions.
Somebody said you're standing in front of God. You don't like this to him like this. What is it? You gotta stand like a soldier.
Yes and no. We went into this last week. Shulchan Aruch says a person should pray in a manner of supplication, like a poor person who's asking for something at someone's entrance in a calm manner, and it should not appear as a burden upon him from which he seeks to be quickly relieved. Okay, person should spend time in davening. Shouldn't be something that he just quickly goes through. Shouldn't be like a job as a burden. The Mishnah Berurah explains that even though one recites it in a matter of supplication, if one does not think that he needs something and he is coming to ask for it before the king, but he's rather praying just because he needs to pray, it's not proper. However, a person does not go back to daven if he didn't do it b'lashon tachanunim. So he should do b'lashon tachanunim. You should do it in a requestful way. But if you didn't, you don't go back. He brings here from the Mamer Mordechai, which is a Mordechai Eliyahu's sefer. He brings here Mishu lo hitpalel b'tachanunim. Person didn't pray in supplication. He didn't request. Or shitpalel achat tefilata hayta alav k'masai. Person did it as a job. B'fi dat roiva poiskim tzarich l'chzor v'hitpalel. V'afilu b'zman hazeh. A person would have to go back and daven again. Aval nahagu sheloi l'chzor v'hitpalel kivon sheyesh chashash sheloi chavim v'lo hitpalel b'tachanunim gam k'hitpalel b'pam shniya. Because it's a lost case. You're going to give him to do it again. Again, he's not going to do it the right way. So why do it again and mess up again? Don't do it in a second. Right. So Yaakov also does talk about that.
We don't let it, right?
He knows that he's better, then he
Right, and I think I saw here, he said to say it with tonight, that, tonight in the Dava, that should be tonight in the Dava for when you do it again, if you think you're gonna do it again this time with Kavana. Okay,
You're supposed to finish the whole thing, then go back. Supposed to finish whole thing, then
The
go
what?
back.
if what?
If you think he's gonna do it again.
Oh, if he's in the middle? So let's see what he says over here. Misha like Kivan ba'avos v'niskar be'emtza bracha b'soifa kodem shichtam bracha Hashem agin Abraham yichzar la'amr mitchilat bracha. If a person was in the middle of the first bracha, he didn't finish it yet, and he realized he didn't have kavana. Yichzar la'amr mitchilat bracha Elokeinu Elokei Avotenu Elokei Abraham Elokei Yitzchak leYaakov b'chavana haruya ve'en lachosh b'zeh mishum hefsek. Kivan shechazul l'tzarich kavana hamakevet tefillah. Ve'im hatam baruch Hashem agin Abraham nachon shiarher kol bracha rishona b'libo b'kavana mitchilata v'ad sofa v'achar kach yamshich ata gibor. So the Yaakov Yosef says that if you did the first bracha, you didn't finish the end of the first bracha, baruch Hashem agin Abraham, go back and fix it up.
Go back to where?
No, that's not what he said. Not say Baruch Hashem again. He says to say Abraham, that's what he said. Fix it up from there and continue. But if you already finished the first bracha, again Abraham, right? Then you stop and just think it over this time in your head with the proper kavanah. The im lo niskar el acher mikan. He didn't remember to have kavanah until after he started the next bracha already. Rashai lahamshich b'tfilato. He has permission to continue his tefillah. Umikol malkom kol sheniskar be'emta tefillah yishtadel v'kol kochol lechaven al kol panim b'birkat modim. So if he realized he didn't have the kavanah in the first bracha, he should make sure to have attention, pay attention to the bracha of modim, not even to the rest of the tefillah, at least just modim. Have them thank you, Hashem. Right? And this will help to mitaken the lack of kavana in avot. Okay, so if you didn't do modim, you have kavana in modim. But af gam zot alpha pishet like kivim beavot, lo yiteyesh min lakaven b'shab b'chot tefillah b'shvil shelo kivim beavot. So that's because you didn't have tefillah kavanah in the first bracha. Don't give up and say, it's like the guy, the famous mashal with the Apple store, right? So he has the Apple store, and then the tray of apples falls down. So what does he do? Oh, my apples fell, and that says all gone. Or he goes back and he tries to collect as many apples as he can. So if you messed up the first bracha, you don't just it's all over now. You do as much as you can. As much as you can, you do. Okay, fine. Well, we'll end it over here. All right. Shavua tov l'kulam. Thank you.
Thank you very much.